I found out my best friend has been secretly paying my rent for 3 years and I don't know what to do. I, 29 am completely losing my mind right now and I need to get this out somewhere because I can't talk to anyone I actually know about this. Here's the situation. I've been living in this apartment in Brooklyn for about 3 years now. It's a decent 1-bedroom, nothing fancy, but it's in a good neighborhood and the rent is $1,850 a month, which honestly seemed like a steal when I found it. My landlord is this older guy named Vincent who owns the building, and he's always been pretty hands-off. We barely interact except when something needs fixing. I work as a graphic designer for a small marketing firm. The pay is okay but not amazing. I make about $52,000 a year, which in New York is basically poverty wages, but I've been making it work. Or at least I thought I was. For context, $1,850 a month in rent on my salary is tight but survivable. I could pay it, cover groceries, keep the lights on, and occasionally have a beer without doing math in my head first. $2,900 a month, the actual rent, would have been impossible. That's $34,800 a year in rent alone. After taxes, I take home maybe $38,000. That math doesn't work. It doesn't even come close to working. I would have had to find a roommate, move to a cheaper neighborhood, or leave the city entirely. My best friend Chris and I have known each other since college. We were roommates freshman year and just clicked immediately. He went into finance while I did the creative thing, and over the years he's done really well for himself. Really well, probably $300K plus at this point, lives in a nice apartment in Manhattan, the whole deal. But he's never been weird about the money difference between us. We still hang out twice a week, grab beers, play basketball on weekends. He's been my rock through some really tough stuff, my dad's death 5 years ago, a brutal breakup 2 years back, general life chaos. Yesterday I was at my apartment and my intercom buzzed. It was Vincent, which was weird because he literally never just shows up. I let him in and he came up looking uncomfortable. "Hey Vincent, what's up? Something broken?" He shifted his weight. No. Look, I need to talk to you about something and I probably should have done this a long time ago, but I made a promise. I immediately thought I was getting evicted. What's not right? Vincent sighed and looked at the floor. Your rent. You're not really paying $1,850 a month. What do you mean? I send you a check every month. The actual rent for this apartment is $2,900. It has been the whole time you've been here. Your friend Chris contacted me before you even moved in. He said he wanted to help you but that you'd never accept money directly. He's been paying me the difference every month. $1,050, like clockwork. I felt like the floor was tilting. Why are you telling me this now? Vincent looked at the wall. I just found out I have cancer. Stage 3 pancreatic. I'm getting my affairs in order, and this has been bothering me. A man should know when someone's doing something like that for him. He apologized again and left. I sat on my couch in complete shock. 3 years. $37,800 that Chris has been paying without ever saying a word. We've hung out probably twice a week this whole time. We've had deep conversations about everything, relationships, careers, our fears, our dreams. And not once did he mention any of it. I started thinking about how it started. 3 years ago I was in a really bad spot. My dad had died the year before and had used up most of my savings helping my mom with funeral costs and medical bills. I was living in a shitty studio in Queens and I was miserable. I remember complaining to Chris about it and he kept pushing me to look in Brooklyn, even sending me listings. One of them was this apartment. I thought it seemed too good to be true, but when I met Vincent and he quoted me $1,850, I jumped on it. Chris set the whole thing up. He found the apartment, contacted Vincent, arranged everything. And I was just completely clueless. Here's the thing that's really messing with me, I don't know how to feel. Part of me is grateful that money made a real difference, let me live somewhere safe, gave me breathing room. But another part of me feels humiliated. Like I've been some kind of charity case for 3 years without knowing it. Every time I felt proud of myself for making ends meet in this city, it was a lie. I wasn't making it work. Chris was. And why didn't he tell me? Did he think I couldn't handle it? Did he think I was too pathetic to survive on my own? I texted him around noon, "Hey man, can we talk? Got something on my mind." He responded immediately. He's coming over at 7. I have no idea what I'm going to say. Update 1. Chris just left. It's 11 p.m. and I'm still shaking. He showed up right at 7 with a 6-pack of my favorite beer and tacos from the place we always go to. Totally normal, smiling, asking about work. We ate and made small talk for 20 minutes. I kept trying to find the right moment and couldn't. Finally I just said it. Vincent came to see me yesterday. Chris took a sip of his beer. Yeah? Everything okay with the apartment? He told me about the rent. About what you've been paying. I watched his face change. The smile disappeared. He put his beer down slowly. Fuck, he said quietly. He wasn't supposed to do that. He has cancer and is clearing his conscience. So it's true? Yes. It's true. Why? He looked up at me. Because you needed help and I could help you. It's not complicated. It's extremely complicated, Chris. That's almost $40,000. That's not picking up a dinner tab. That's a fuck ton of money you've been spending on me without telling me. Would you have let me help if I'd asked? No. Obviously no. Exactly. That's why I didn't ask. I stood up and started pacing. You don't get to make that decision for me. You don't get to manipulate my entire life because you decided I needed help. I wasn't manipulating anything. I was helping my best friend who was struggling. By lying to me for 3 years. By omission, maybe. I never lied to your face. Fuck off with that distinction. Every time we talked about money or work or my apartment, you were sitting there knowing you were bankrolling my life and pretending everything was normal. Chris stood up too. What was I supposed to do? Watch you kill yourself working 2 jobs? Your dad had just died, man. Your mom needed help. You were drowning and I had the money to throw you a life raft. So I did. You should have asked me. And you would have said no, and we both know it. You're too proud for your own good sometimes. That stung because it was true. We stood there in silence. Then I asked the question that had been eating at me all day. What else have you paid for? He hesitated. Just for a second. But I saw it. The dental emergency, he said finally. 2 years ago. The root canal. I called the credit card company pretending to be you and disputed the charge, then paid them directly. I felt sick. That was $2,800. And what else? That's it. I swear. Something in his voice made me not believe him. But I didn't push further. He grabbed his jacket. I thought eventually you'd understand, he said at the door. But I can see that's not going to happen tonight. I'm going before we say shit we can't take back. I think we're already there. He stopped and turned back. For what it's worth, I'm not sorry I did it. I'd do it again. You're my best friend and you were struggling and I helped. If that makes me an asshole in your eyes, fine. But I know I did the right thing. Then he left. I've been sitting here for the past 3 hours. The credit card thing is what's getting me. He called them pretending to be me. That's identity fraud. That's a crime. And there was something in his voice when he said that's it, something that made me think he was still holding back. Tomorrow I'm going to start digging. Update 2. I went through my financial records for the past 3 years. All of them. Bank statements, credit card bills, everything. It took most of the day, and I found things that don't add up. About 18 months ago I got a $1,200 refund from my health insurance company. I remember being confused at the time, but I called and they confirmed it was legitimate, so I accepted it and moved on. Now I'm doubting it. Last year I thought I won $500 from some online raffle I didn't remember entering, deposited directly to my account with a memo saying promotional winner, Design Hub raffle. Design Hub is a graphic design networking site I'm on, so it seemed plausible. I didn't question it. Then I did something I'm not proud of. Chris and I have shared a Netflix account for years, and I know he uses the same password for everything. He's told me this, joked about it. I sat there for probably an hour before I did it, knowing it was exactly the kind of thing I was angry at him for, going behind someone's back, deciding what they should or shouldn't know. I logged into his email anyway. The first thing I found was exactly what I expected, emails to Vincent going back 3 years. Monthly payment confirmations, perfectly regular, subject line always the same, my address, monthly transfer. $1,050, like clockwork. 36 of them. I kept searching. I typed my name into his inbox and got 847 results. 847. I started opening threads. There was an email chain from 2 years ago with someone named Patricia Chen, a case manager at a nonprofit. Chris's initial message to her was almost clinical. I'm inquiring on behalf of my friend David. He's dealing with grief from his father's death and financial hardship. He's too proud to ask for help directly. I'm happy to fund any assistance privately if you can coordinate services without revealing the source. Patricia's response mentioned that given his generous donation to their annual fund, they could probably arrange something. I kept scrolling down the chain. Patricia's next email contained a name and a phone number. Dr. Sarah Okonkwo. My therapist. I sat completely still for about 30 seconds. I found Dr. Okonkwo through my insurance company's provider directory. I specifically remember searching by zip code and filtering by in-network. I've been seeing her twice a month for over 2 years. My copay has been $20 a session. I remember once thinking how lucky I was to have decent insurance. According to the emails, her standard rate is $200 a session. Chris has been paying the $180 difference. Twice a month for 2.5 years. Another $10,800 that I never knew existed, but it got worse. I found the EOB statements, the explanation of benefits forms my insurance company sends after each session. I have a folder of them in my email going back years. I always assumed they were real. They aren't. Dr. Okonkwo isn't in my insurance network. The documents were fabricated. Chris worked with Patricia to create forms that looked exactly like what my insurance company sends, and someone forwarded them to me so I'd see a $20 copay and never think to look closer. I kept pulling threads. The Design Hub raffle, Chris had paid the site $500 to deposit the money into my account and send the notification. I found the invoice. The Design Hub logo was right there in the email, exactly as I remembered it from the notification I'd received. The insurance refund I still couldn't fully trace, but his fingerprints were all over it. Then I found the email to Amanda. About 8 months ago she had written him, "I really think you need to tell David the truth. What you're doing is kind, but it's not sustainable and it's not fair to him." His response, "Every time I'm about to, I imagine how humiliated he'd feel and I can't do it. He's been through so much. Right now he's finally stable and doing better. I can't take that away from him. The money doesn't matter to me. I just need him to be okay." Amanda has known. She sat across from me at dinner, watched me talk about my apartment and my therapist and my life, and she's known. I kept going. 2 years ago I served jury duty for 3 weeks. My company doesn't pay during leave and I remember being stressed about money that month, but somehow I made it through fine. There were emails to my company's HR department. Chris had arranged for them to pay me during jury duty and reimburse them directly, using a project his firm had with my company as leverage. Last year my mom panicked about being late on her property taxes with penalties stacking up. I told Chris about it. A week later my mom called to say the tax office had found an error in her assessment and the penalties were being waived. There were emails to the county assessor's office. A donation to a county fund. A small favor called in. The total I could account for across everything was over $65,000. The last email I found was from 3 days ago. Chris had written to Vincent asking about his health and mentioning that he'd be interested in purchasing the building if Vincent ever wanted to sell. He's trying to buy my building. I logged out and sat there for a long time. The thing that I keep coming back to, the thing I can't resolve, is that some of this is serious fraud. Fabricated insurance documents. Impersonating me to a credit card company. Manipulating my employer and my mother's tax record. This isn't just generous gestures that got out of hand. Some of it is criminal. And at the same time, he did it because he cares about me. I know that. I can see it in every email I read. There's no angle here, no benefit to him, just this enormous sustained effort to make sure I was okay. I don't know what to do with that. I don't know how to hold both things at once. My therapist appointment is tomorrow. I have to go. I have to know. Update 3. I went to my appointment. I had to know. Dr. Okonkwo could tell something was off immediately. I sat there for the first 10 minutes without saying anything. Finally she asked, "David, what's going on? How much does Chris pay you?" Her expression shifted. She's good at keeping neutral, but I saw the flash of recognition. "I can't discuss other clients." "He's not your client." "I am." "How much does he pay for my sessions?" She was quiet for a long time. "I think you should discuss this with Chris." "I'm discussing it with you. You're my therapist. Or at least I thought you were." She took off her glasses and set them in her lap. "I can't share specific financial details. But I can tell you that yes, the payment arrangement for your sessions has not been standard, and a third party has been involved from the beginning." "And you never thought to tell me?" "I wanted to. I pushed back on the arrangement initially. But I was told you were in crisis, that financial barriers were preventing you from getting help you needed, and I made a judgment call that your mental health was more important than the unconventional structure. I've struggled with that decision ethically throughout our work together. That wasn't your call to make." "You were right." She paused. "But David, do you remember our third session? You told me you'd been thinking about how to make it look like an accident on the highway. You had a plan." I had let myself forget how dark that time was. The weight of my dad being gone, the money stress, the loneliness. I remembered the thought very clearly when she said it out loud. "You needed help," she said. "Consistent, real help. And you couldn't afford it. So yes, I accepted an unconventional arrangement because the alternative was you not getting treatment at all. If you want to terminate our relationship over this, I understand. But I don't regret helping you stay alive." I had been holding myself together through the whole session up to that point. The anger had been useful, it gave me something to grip. But that sentence cut straight through it. Because here's the thing I hadn't let myself think about fully until that moment. I don't know that I would be alive right now if I hadn't been able to afford those sessions. I know how that sounds. I know people say things like that and they're being dramatic. I'm not being dramatic. The year after my dad died, I was in a place I don't have clean language for. I was functional on the outside, showing up to work, texting people back, putting food in my body. But there was this quiet, constant voice underneath everything telling me that none of it mattered, that I was exhausted and broken alone and the people I loved would manage fine without me. I had a specific thought about the highway. I had a specific stretch of road I'd identified. And then I found a therapist who cost me $20 a session and I started going twice a month and slowly, very slowly, the voice got quieter. I had given Chris credit for being a good friend. I had never once thought to give him credit for that. I started crying. I haven't cried in probably a year, but it all just came out at once. She handed me the tissue box and waited. When I finally stopped, I asked, "Does he get reports? Do you tell him what we talk about?" "Absolutely not. He pays the bills. That's it. He's never asked about our sessions and I would refuse if he did." We talked for the rest of the hour, the rent, everything I'd found, how violated I felt, how lost. She didn't tell me what to think, just asked questions. That's what she always does. When the session ended, I asked what happens now with the payments. "That's up to you," she said. "We can discuss a sliding scale, or I can refer you to someone else. Whatever you need." I left her office and drove to Chris's building in Manhattan. I'd never actually been to his office before. I told the front desk I was there to see him, and after some back and forth he came down looking worried. We went up to his floor. His office had huge windows overlooking the city. On one shelf there was a photo of the two of us from a camping trip a few years ago. He closed the door. "What's going on?" "I know about all of it. The therapy. The jury duty. My mom's taxes. The raffle. All of it." He went pale. "How did you?" "Doesn't matter. $65,000, Chris. Is there anything else?" He sat down. "No. That's everything. You committed fraud. Multiple times. You know that." "I know." "Then why?" He looked at me and his eyes were red. "Because you were disappearing. After your dad died, you became a shell. You were getting quieter and more hopeless every month and I watched it and I had all this money I didn't even earn. I just got lucky and was in the right place. And you're the best person I know. You deserve to not have to choose between therapy and groceries. So I fixed what I could fix. You didn't fix it. You controlled everything without telling me. I kept you alive." He was crying now. "You told your therapist you wanted to die. Did you tell me?" "No. Because you didn't want to burden me. That's who you are, you suffer alone because you think you have to. Well, I wasn't going to let you do that." We were quiet for a moment. Through his window I could see the whole city. "Amanda told you to tell me," I said. He looked surprised. I didn't explain. "She did," he said. "She's been on my case about it for months. She thinks it's controlling. Maybe she's right. But every time I thought about telling you, I imagined you pulling away, and I couldn't lose you. You're my best friend. You're my brother. You should have trusted me. You were right. I should have. I'm sorry. I need time," I said. "I need space to figure out how I feel about all this." "I understand. And you need to stop. No more payments, no more arrangements. I need to know my life is actually mine." "Okay. I mean it. If I find out you're still doing things behind my back, we're done. I promise. I'll stop." I stood to leave. He stood too. "For what it's worth," he said, "you are not a charity case. You never were. I did this because you matter to me and I had the means to help. That's it." I nodded and left. Update 4. It's been about 3 weeks since the conversation in Chris's office. I've thought about almost nothing else. I've gone back and forth so many times on what the right way to feel is that I've started to think maybe there isn't one. Maybe this is just genuinely complicated and I have to live with it being complicated. Here's where I've landed, at least for now. I can't afford this apartment at full price. $2,900 a month on my salary isn't possible, not without a roommate, not without giving up basically everything else. I looked at what I could realistically afford and started quietly browsing listings. The options are what you'd expect: smaller, further out, louder neighborhoods. That's just the reality of this city on my income. But then I had a conversation with my mom. I hadn't told her any of this, I didn't want to add to her stress, but she could tell something was off and eventually I gave her enough of the outline to explain why I seemed distant. Her response surprised me. She said, "David, when your father got sick, you spent down your savings to help us without being asked. You never said a word about how much that cost you. You just did it. Was that wrong?" I said that was different, That was family. She said, Chris thinks you're his family. I sat with that for a while. I went back to Dr. Okonkwo. I've decided to keep seeing her, at least for now. We're working out a payment arrangement on her sliding scale that I can actually afford. It's going to stretch me, but it's mine. She didn't push me toward any particular decision about Chris. She just kept asking what I actually wanted, separate from what I thought I was supposed to want. What I actually want is my friend back. That's the honest answer. I'm angry and I feel violated, and the fraud stuff genuinely scared me. The fabricated documents, the impersonation, those aren't small things. But underneath all of it, I miss Chris. 3 weeks of silence from someone who's been a constant in my life for a decade is its own kind of grief. I texted him last night. I'm not ready to pretend everything is normal. But I don't want to lose you. Can we figure out what comes next? He responded in about 30 seconds, yes. Tell me when and where. We're getting coffee on Saturday. I don't know exactly what I'm going to say. I know I'm going to tell him that what he did, the scope of it, the duration, the fraud, can't happen again. That I need him to trust me to handle my own life, even when I'm struggling, even when it's hard to watch. That honesty has to be the foundation or there's nothing to build on. But I'm also going to tell him what I couldn't say in his office, what I've only been able to admit to myself in the last few days, that the therapist he arranged for me probably did save my life. I was in a worse place than I let anyone see back then, and having somewhere to go every 2 weeks where I could be honest about it without worrying about money, that mattered more than I knew how to acknowledge. I don't know how to forgive someone for doing something wrong in a way that also helped you survive. I don't think there's a clean answer to that. I'm 30 years old and still figuring out that most things worth anything don't have clean answers. Vincent emailed me this week. His treatment is starting and he wanted me to know that regardless of what happens with his health, he's instructed his estate to honor my current lease terms through its remaining duration. He said he hoped I was doing okay and that he was glad he'd told me. I wrote back and thanked him. I meant it. I'm going to be okay. I don't know what okay looks like exactly, but I'm moving toward it. That's enough for now. Hi there, if you made it so far. Consider dropping a like and maybe subscribing. Thanks. And have a nice one.